Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships with Wadres, and today I have something of a special review for you. I have finally worked up enough research points through the Research Bureau to gain the Tier 10 Premium French Cruiser, the Colbert. Now, as many of you know, this is basically the Tier 10 Atlanta-esque sort of cruiser. Under the right circumstances, she is capable of getting not just 6, but 7 of her guns off on any one side, especially if you have her angled somewhat, kind of like that. And, well, she is definitely a nice, very rapid-firing little cruiser, almost bordering on destroyer as far as her overall maneuverability and capabilities, while still having some nice, healthy, cruiser-ish qualities to her. Sorry about that. Okay, so anyway, let's start off by looking at her stats. And let's also discuss her armor a little bit. Now, she is very much a light cruiser, 16 millimeters fore and aft plating, so she's not exactly going to be bouncing anything as a bow tanker. But she does have some rather nice armor plates in regards to her deck and side plating. So if you are maneuvering properly, things like that, you can occasionally use armor angling as a countermeasure against larger caliber ships. I mean, 30 millimeters, you may not necessarily be able to bounce Yamato shells off of her upper armor belt, but if they land in the lower armor belt, she is definitely more than capable of ricocheting 16 or even 18-inch shells. But anything lower or higher, yeah, you're kind of out of luck in regards to being overmatched or anything like that. Now, she does have some, again, those nice thick armor plates. She is at least capable of some armor angling, some tanking capability, and that's actually something that you're going to be seeing in the matches that I'm going to be showing you. As far as her survivability, she is reasonably healthy with 36,100 hit points. This is substantially more than any destroyer would have, to say the least. And if you were to opt for, let's say, survivability expert, you would definitely be more than capable of pushing her close to 40,000 hit points, which is respectable for a light cruiser at Tier 10. Granted, it's certainly not the healthiest for a light cruiser. I mean, if I come back and look at, say, the most infamous ones, like the, it would help if I choose the right things, the Worcester, which has 45,400, or the Minotaur, which has 43,000. I mean, okay, she's not too healthy, but she is at least in a marginally fair ballpark. And with her lighter armor spaces, and the fact that she is something of a narrow ship looking at her properly, chances are you're going to end up with a lot of overpens more than anything else, though the thicker armor belt does mean that anything that hits her is most likely going to arm, at the very least. So you do want to be careful about giving a little too much broadside. Looking at her artillery, this is her primary notoriety right here. She has 8 double 127mm guns, and let me tell you, these guns have a blistering rate of fire. Even at the baseline, let's send my commander to the reserve here for the moment, because he is actually built for ships like this. And I do have a couple of other modules on here that actually affect this as well, like the main battery mod 3, so that also has to be considered. But even so, these guns have a base reload, I believe, in the 3.4, 3.5 second baseline zone. So they do fire pretty quickly. With main battery mod 3 on there, which reduces the reload by 12%, she gets down to 3.1 seconds, and with a commander running basic firing training, she also gets knocked down a little bit more to 2.8 seconds. Her guns do turn reasonably quick, 6.9 seconds for 180 degrees, so definitely not looking at investing too much in turret traverse. These guns, they're basically always on target no matter what you do, and switching sides, the guns will be turned around long before your angle is even fully switched around either. So you've definitely got turret traverse to burn here. For this ship, even considering expert marksman, I would say you've got better utility from substantially other skills. Or substantially better utility from other skills. I'm just tripping all over myself all of a sudden, aren't I? Okay, anyway. Given that this ship is classified as an AA cruiser, she does have good, solid AA defenses. She has an AA rating of 89. She has 10 double 57 millimeters, and those rapid-firing 127s are dual-purpose, so they also boast her AA armament as well. She has a mid-range aura that does 466 damage per second, and a long-range aura that does 162 damage per second. Her long-range explosive salvos do 1,932 damage per second, and she does get 6 bursts per salvo. I do not believe... Yeah, no, I haven't invested in AA skills for her, so she doesn't get any extra bonuses or any extra damage per second or anything here. So that's basically her base AA stats right there. And let me tell you, she shreds aircraft like crazy, even without any AA bonuses. Coming to her maneuverability, she does have a maximum surface speed of... Let's take this flag off of here for a second. She does have a base surface speed of 33 knots. With the Sierra Mike flag, she gets boosted up to 34.6 knots. She has a reasonably tight 620 meter turning circle, and her rudder with rudder shift mod 2, or steering gears mod 2, kicks over in 7.4 seconds. I believe that's actually down from like a 9.6 or something like that at the baseline. And of course, captain skills do not affect the rudder shift or the maneuverability much at all, if anything. Finally, for concealment, I do have Concealment System Mod 1, and because this is also a destroyer, it's actually one of my... Well, he is a destroyer-built captain, but he is not specialized for a destroyer, let me put it that way. He does also have Concealment Expert on there, so we're looking at an overall, 20% reduction to concealment. I believe her baseline for concealment, as far as detectability range, is like 13 kilometers. So cutting her down substantially with Concealment Systems Mod 1 and Concealment Expert is a must. This gets her concealment down below 10 kilometers, which is almost destroyer-esque as far as concealment, which is good because, well, otherwise you're getting spotted from almost near max battery range, and that's going by her base main battery firing range, I think, of like 13 or 14 kilometers. Now, of course, I do have a couple of other skills on her, specifically advanced firing training. Let's take the captain off of here again. And yeah, her main battery firing range baseline is 13.8 kilometers. Concealment Expert removed, she's seen at 10.8 kilometers. So of course, taking away the concealment module, she would be spotted at close to 12 kilometers. So she doesn't have an incredible stealth bonus there. Putting captain back on, her main battery range is pushed out to 16.6 kilometers, so you actually get a 6 almost 7-kilometer bonus range to your detection, where you can just kind of sit back and start firing, and maybe hope that you can get into a destroyer's smokescreen or something, and that helps you out even more. From the air, she is spotted at 6 kilometers, which also lines up beautifully with her AA detection, or her AA range. Her long-range AA opens up at 6 kilometers, so you really don't get too much that aircraft can do to you, that they basically spot you as soon as you start firing at them. And of course, after firing your main battery in smoke, you are seen at 5.6 kilometers with these 127s. So you do have a little bit of a extra bloom compared to destroyers, even though you're firing destroyer caliber guns. But at that, she is a cruiser, and she does have a little, a fair bit more health to her. So I suppose that's one of your trade-offs. Now, coming back in to discuss the modules a little bit more in depth, you do have main armaments mod 1. I mean, this ship's bread and butter is her main armaments, so you do want to make those as survivable as possible. Steering gears mod 1, because personally, in my opinion, cruisers just tend to get their steering knocked out a little bit more regularly than their propulsion. But soon enough, with the next patch, I believe these modifications are going to be going away anyway, and this will just have the straight-up propulsion and steering bonus applied anyway, so you're going to get both of those regardless as of, again, the next patch, to my knowledge. Aiming Systems Mod 1 is really just about the only bonus here that I can see being effective. I mean, Main Battery Mod 2, you're cutting reload time and improving traverse, but she's already got traverse, so you'd be bonusing your you'd be increasing your reload time for nothing. AA Guns Mod 1, she's already got powerful AA, you'd only be getting 2 extra salvo bursts, and honestly, I don't think it's worth it. So the only thing that really has any reasonable utility here is Aiming Systems Mod 1, which does cut her artillery dispersion down to, where is it on here, 129 meters at max range, which for the build I have currently is 16.6 kilometers. So nice tight dispersion grouping overall. Definitely I'd say go for Maneuverability, Steering Gears Mod 2. This helps you kick, rudder over, do zigzags, things like that more efficiently, and just overall use your armor angling, troll shells into your armor belt more effectively. Concealment Systems Mod 1, we've already gone over that. It's actually one of the more viable skills for this cruiser. I mean, I might make something of an argument for Steering Gears Mod 3, maybe. Again, just for added maneuverability. But target acquisition does nothing for this ship, in all honesty. And, well, Steering Gears Mod 3, again, you're giving up concealment versus just short-term bonus in maneuverability. You're going to be doing better with the concealment, honestly. And, of course, for slot number 6, because she is a tier 10, she gets AA Guns Mod 2, which is a 15% bonus to her AA firepower overall. And, I mean, I can see that, especially if you're overly concerned with aircraft carriers. Another possibility, you could rain death and destruction down from substantially longer range with a 16% increase to your overall main battery range. But these shells are not exactly fast. They are definitely light cruiser, drifty, slow shells. So with an initial velocity of only 808 meters per second, you really don't want to be pushing your range out too far. I think 16.6 kilometers is about the farthest you can do so comfortably. So I would definitely say Gunfire Control System Mod 1, not so much. Definitely look at Main Battery Mod 3, which reduces your reload time substantially. I would rather have the chance to get more shells on target than have a longer period of time to fire at a target, if that makes any sense overall. And of course, coming over to commander skills. And by the way, I do want to mention this is actually the commander that is built for my Le Terrible, and not this is actually a destroyer built captain, but it works very well on this ship because a lot of the skills affect this ship very well. Preventative maintenance to prevent knockout of modules. Adrenaline rush, and this is Jean-Jacques Honoré, so he does get the boosted adrenaline rush, the 0.25% instead of the 0.2% per percent of hit points lost. So he does actually get a reasonable bonus to basically anything, especially as you take any damage. These guns do start firing at a very blistering rate with this captain after taking a few solid hits. Last stand, because you don't really have you don't actually have torpedoes in this ship for an interesting little switch up. So, I mean, I suppose an argument could be made possibly for Jack of all trades, reducing your reload, your consumable reload, or maybe even, maybe high alert, reduce your damage control. But personally, I'd opt for last stand just because if your steering gears and propulsion do get knocked out, at least you still retain some functionality there. For your Tier 3 skills, basic firing training and of course Tier 4 advanced firing training are a must for this ship. You do get extra range for advanced firing training, and you do get a little bit better for basic firing training as well. Some may argue for this ship getting inertia fuse high explosive. Personally, I don't see it giving you much benefit because I honestly don't think you're crossing any major thresholds opting for inertial fuse high explosive. Her base penetration is 20 millimeters, which honestly, that you only get a 6 millimeter bonus, so you'd only be crossing the threshold of 26 millimeters. So if you have cruisers that you're going up against that have 27 millimeters of armor, you're really not getting any bonuses there. You're still just going to see a lot of shatters. The only thing this would help you out against at all is maybe something at lower tier like tier 8, where you might see some 25 millimeters, especially on, again, cruisers, more so than anything else. Kutuzov may not necessarily be the best example here. Yeah, okay, so you do see a little bit there with 26 millimeters on the Kutuzov, so you would at least pass that threshold. But, I mean, Prince Eugen, you're not passing through her armor. Mogami, I think, does still have light cruiser armor, 25 millimeters, so you do get through her armor. But, I mean, Cleveland, 25 millimeters, so you do have a couple of lighter cruisers that you would still be able to penetrate. But if you're looking at trying to deal with, say, heavy cruisers or battleships, you're basically out of luck. You're not going to be passing those thresholds much at all, if at all, period, end of story. So, I mean, an argument could be made in regards to dealing with lighter targets, but when you're also considering that her primary targets are probably going to be destroyers or light cruisers anyway, again, mainly destroyers, I mean, you've already gotten more than enough penetration to get past that armor on any destroyer, period, end of story. So there is that to be mentioned as well. I mean, yeah, okay. Going back, you could opt for IFHE. It would give you some additional penetration against light cruisers specifically, and, well, it doesn't give you any bonus at all against destroyers. So the only thing it would help you with, period, again, is light cruisers, nothing more. Heavy cruisers would still have more than enough armor to just tank your shells all day long. You would be just basically burning through them with any fires set and really just relying more on superstructure damage. So IFHE, if you're really that interested in it, you could opt for that instead of advanced firing training and just get that little extra pen. Personally, I'd prefer the advanced firing training just for getting more range on, say, battleships, whatnot. Keep battleships at longer range, have more opportunity to dodge deck and weave and basically just spam death and destruction from them in the form of setting fires. And of course, Concealment Expert is another must because, again, just it's nice to be able to get closer to some of those destroyers without being seen right off the bat and just really give them a rough time overall. As far as other skills for this ship, a very strong argument could be made for Survivability Expert, giving her, again, close to 40,000 hit points with the full Tier 10 max out bonus of an additional 3,500 hit points. Something else you could do, possibly, though I haven't exactly seen much use for this one, is Superintendent. I mean, I could say maybe it would do you some good if you're in random matches where the matches just inherently last a little bit longer. But honestly, I would say look for the second Tier 3 skill, look more for Demolition Expert or maybe even Basics of Survivability. Actually, I can't even really say Basics of Survivability with a straight face. I would say either Survivability Expert or Demo Expert. Increase your fire chance or increase your staying power. That's really about all I can say. And again, for the Tier 4 skills, I would say your musts, again, are Concealment Expert and Advanced Firing Training. Massive AA really doesn't do an incredible amount for you. Radio Location, maybe if you want to focus yourself to the Destroyer Hunter archetype, but you're losing a lot of other utility. IFHE, again, same thing. You really wouldn't gain a whole lot of an appreciable amount of penetration for the targets, I guess, that matter. So I would say Advanced Firing Training and Concealment Expert straight up. Manual Fire Control for secondaries, obviously nothing there. AA skill or aircraft skills are out the window entirely because you don't have aircraft. Massive AA fire, again, too much utility lost, and same also goes for fire prevention. So I think there are really only two good options here for your Tier 4 skills. Anyway, enough going over the stats. Let's go ahead and take this ship on into battle and see how she performs. So the first match that I ended up in was on the map Hotspot with a weather system, and honestly, it kind of threw me off a little bit because I'm not used to seeing this map quite this dark. So, yeah. Anyway, did have a enemy aircraft carrier on the map, which kind of learned real damn fast what the AA capabilities of this ship are. Unfortunately, I did not do all the damage to that squadron, but I certainly did a sizable enough chunk to help out the Kitakaze as I charged into its smoke screen and then slowed down to take full advantage of said smoke screen. Because, as we have noticed in the stats, the Colbert does have a 6-kilometer surface detection range when she is hiding in smoke. And, well, it basically just allows me to rain wanton death and destruction upon any target that ends up within range of these absolutely ludicrous quick-firing guns. Of course, the enemy Kitakaze is the first victim, and just look at how quickly that destroyer melted. It may as well not have even been on the map. Venezia is the next choice in line, and, well, it is going to fare a little bit better, but ultimately it's just going to get pretty well brutalized as well. I do fire on Venezia just long enough to force out damage control and get another fire burning before I switch my attention over to the enemy FDG. And, well, at this point the smoke screen is also dissipating, so I decide to start moving again to just make myself that much more difficult of a target. And that would have been that definitely would have made a difference, except for the fact that I am actually not the closest target for really any of these ships to shoot at. The friendly FDG is substantially closer, plus there are other, I guess I could almost say more enticing targets. And that basically means I get free reign to shoot at whatever the hell I want, and not really expect much in the way of anything firing back on me. I do stop and pay attention long enough to dodge torpedoes, or basically slow down enough so that it sails right past my bow, before I go back to just raining fire, death, and destruction on basically everything that is in eyesight. First and foremost, this Georgia definitely needs to die. Let's see, there's one fire. How long before the, let's see. Come on, I know I can get it in there somewhere. And yep, there's fire number 2. Okay, let's aim towards the bow. Yeah, this thing does excel at setting fires, even though her guns really don't do much of anything against the armor of battleships overall. The only thing you really have any chance of penetrating at all is the superstructure. She does excel due to sheer volume of fire at setting fires, very much like the Smolensk and the US and British light cruisers. Well, maybe not so much the British light cruisers, considering they can only fire AP, but I think you understand where I'm coming from on this. Basically, it's the one thing that any ship with light caliber guns is phenomenal at, and that is setting fires, and trust me, the Colbert is far from an exception. I'm just simply using my speed, maneuverability to try to potentially deflect any incoming shots, although I would be doing that is more accurate to say because really nothing's giving me any attention at all. And that's primarily because of the friendly FDG that's just sitting in front of everything and basically drawing fire. I do unfortunately clip him a little bit with the main guns as I pass behind him, but other than that, I disengage and then start firing again as soon as I'm clear. And then of course the enemy FDG is the last target within eyesight, and well, it goes down to a friendly, but not after I manage to do some minor damage and set a fire. That does unfortunately, however, end the match, and we start seeing my tally. 157,000 damage done, 157,434 credits earned, 2,548 EXP, and 544 free EXP. And it is one of those rare and odd occasions where the credits and damage are almost the same value. Did hit enemy targets with a surprising 537 main battery hits. Came away from the match with 497 base EXP. The only person who did better, of course, Russian bias much, was the friendly Smolensk, but I don't doubt that he probably earned it in some regard. Overall, 104,000 done by main battery, another 52,000 damage done by fire and flood, got 27,000 spotting damage, 126 potential damage, did 82,308 damage to the enemy Georgia, 46,000 damage to the enemy FDG, 17,700 to the Venezia, and 11,000 to the Kirikaze. With only 3 planes killed from the enemy Implacable, and unfortunately 1,300 damage done to the friendly FDG. And of course, because nothing was really shooting at me, I only absorbed 2,700 damage anyway. For final credit earnings, 123,000 credits take home. Most of the modifiers here were just basic, simple flags, not any of the super specials. The commander also walks away from this match with a relatively respectable 3,082 EXP. And by the way, this is Jean-Jacques Honoré. He is also tailored for my Le Terrible, not the Colbert. But again, as I mentioned earlier, going over the ship stats and commander build and everything, this ship benefits from basically all of the same skills that you would use on any of the French destroyers, with the exception of any of the torpedo skills. On that note, let's move on to match number 2. And Yeah, this one's gonna be, yeah. Sorry about that. This one's gonna be a little bit more of a showcase on just how potentially overpowered I could definitely get away with calling this ship, because well, yeah, just yeah, you'll see what I mean as this match unfolds. It really gets kind of ridiculous almost. Of course, starting off the match, I do want to get myself set up somewhat behind this island, though while I do end up setting myself up behind it, I really don't get myself in quite as good a concealed position behind it as I was originally intending. But ultimately, that's actually not going to bite me in the ass so much as I would have expected, because it is still co-op. There are substantially closer targets to really just about everything, so there's not a whole lot that actually tries to focus me down, at least not at this point in the match. Of course, the enemy daring just kind of dissolves under my fire. Enemy Wooster comes in, and this is where I do start having a little trouble, because Wooster does have some reasonably decent armor on her. So yeah, she kind of does tank my shells a lot better than maybe I really would have liked. But I mean, as long as I'm hitting the superstructure with any regularity, I can pretty much just chip away at her and not really have to worry about it so much. And I mean, I'm doing relatively consistent damage no matter what you say. The friendly Des Moines does finish it off. And by the way, I do want to make note of the fact that this particular match was also all bots on my team. I am the only player on my team here. So I'm just about the only contributor to this match that is actually basically worth my team spot, my team space. And that's going to play a major role in the outcome of this match, to not put too fine a point on it. Yeah. Long range, raining death and destruction down upon the Montana. I think this is actually the first ship that I was actually shooting at where I didn't actually have the enemy with line of sight on me, at least for this particular point in time. But I do eventually start moving forward because the match is progressing and I do want to try and get something done. And, okay, yeah, I mean, of course the friendly bots are still doing something worthwhile, but they are bots. They're certainly taking their time about it, going about pre-programmed routes, maneuvers, tactics, whatever. So, again, I'm the only real player or individual of consequence on this map. And as you can see, I'm trying to set fires where I can on this Montana, trying to get the stern fire in, and just trying to not get obliterated. Fortunately, the side armor of the Colbert does at least play to my strength and help me out. And of course, getting into perfect broadside, I just open up with AP, and oh my god, does the last little bit of that Montana just melt away. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to go with there, except that Montana, it took maybe... it didn't even take 5 seconds for that Montana to just completely melt from like 12,000 hit points as soon as I started utilizing AP. Not sure what else to say about that, honestly. Now, for the next little bit, there's nothing else that's really spectacular as far as occurrences with this match. Really just getting through sea cap and trying to get myself into a position to try and go after the enemy aircraft carrier. Basically just trying to charge on through and do what I can to get close to it, detect it, and maybe even get a line of fire on the enemy Kremlin. And, well, I do, while it's spotted, try to get a little bit of fire in on the enemy Kremlin over the island, but without actually having a physical reference for where it is, other than just basic reporting from friendly ships. Not a whole lot I can do there. And of course, I do get the enemy CV spotted, trying to rain death and destruction down on it with HE, but one of the things you'll notice is this is a Audacious. It's an armored aircraft carrier. So my HE is basically worthless against it. Of course, the Kremlin does finally pop around the corner of the island, and I am the closest thing to it. I am the only thing it even has line of sight on. So of course, it wants to kill me. And, well, let's just say I really don't want it giving me that much attention. Especially not at 7.5 kilometers. So, I pop speed boost, which, by the way, this is the full 20% speed boost that is given to French destroyers and I think some of the French cruisers. So it actually gets me up to a good 39 knots in this ship. This ship is nice and fast with that beautiful 20% French speed boost. And I just start wagging my tail around trying to troll shells into my armor belt and otherwise just rain death and destruction upon the Kremlin from the rear turrets of this ship while I basically just try to open the gap and give myself a little bit more, dare I say, time to dodge shells, as it were. And, well, I'm certainly not doing too bad. I'm a little bit off on my aim at some points, trying to pin the bow of this Kremlin. But, I mean, all things considered, I could be doing a hell of a lot worse. Finally get the bow fire going as the center fire goes out. But, you know what, that's not going to be too hard to set again. And then, of course, getting rear turret, getting myself into a position as it tries to redirect towards the friendly battleship, and get the rear fire going. So that Kremlin is burning literally from stem to stern, and it just does not take long to just completely die. Now, it's just me and the aircraft carrier. And, well, if there's one thing this aircraft carrier does not want, it's me in close proximity, or at least so you would think, except for the fact that the Audacious does actually have thicker armor than my HE shells can penetrate. And while I am setting fires, it's certainly nothing to, it's an aircraft carrier. It's got a quick cooldown, damage control, and fires on aircraft carriers just don't burn very long. So the only damage that I'm actually getting that's sticking from actually impacting the hull is anything that lands on the superstructure. That's the nice thing about having an armored aircraft carrier. If you've got something that's especially light shooting at you, it basically doesn't do much of anything. And it's taking me, admittedly, a bit too long to figure that out. I was hoping to just do quite a bit of damage, but then I did remember ultimately that the Audacious just has better armor than most aircraft carriers. But then I say, you know what, screw it, and I switch over to AP. And oh my dear lord, does that aircraft carrier just melt. Yeah, there was just no way that aircraft carrier was getting away from me alive once I started opening up with that AP. I'm almost tempted to say that it just kind of disintegrated. There was nothing at all to really say in regards to how quickly that aircraft carrier just died. To be honest, I'm not even sure a battleship firing at long range with citadels and getting lucky hits has killed an aircraft carrier that quickly. So, yeah. Yeah. 1,286 main battery hits over the course of that match, ladies and gentlemen. That's we're seeing some ludicrous numbers here. I haven't even seen half of that in my Harugumo for some of the better matches I've had in that thing. So yeah, this ship's overall rate of fire and whatnot is just absolutely ridiculous. Overall, 290,000 points worth of damage, and this was only my second match in the Colbert too. So yeah. Let's see, 34 aircraft kills, 4 kills, 18 fires. We're talking some seriously strong numbers here. 392,000 credits earned, 4,524 EXP, 965 free EXP for a co-op battle. This is, again, I'm tempted to say ridiculous numbers. I even managed to top 1,054 base EXP for this match. That is something that is extremely rare to come across in co-op matches, to say the least, even in a straight tier 10 match. So I don't know what else I can say about that right there, except maybe calling this ship overpowered is right on point. 100,200 damage to the enemy Montana, 82,500 to the Kremlin, 63,400 to the Audacious, 18,800 to the Daring, 24,800 to the Worcester, 172,000 damage done by main battery, 117,000 damage done by fire and flood, or I should just say fires, 50,000 damage done to enemy aircraft with 15 torpedo bombers, 15 fighters, and 4 rocket attack planes killed. And, oh my god, the amount of fire damage spread across most of these ships. My dear lord. Oh, also potential damage tanked of just a little over 500,000 in a very light cruiser. And I can swear hands down that the vast majority of that was probably ricocheted off my main armor belt from the Kremlin. Because that's the only thing that got a really sizable chunk of time to actually shoot at me to rack those points up. Ay. Of course, I did get a little bit closer into the fray this time, so I did absorb damage directly, approximating 26,000 points off of my hull. But, I mean, that's still a good, 10,000 shy of full health, so I was still pretty healthy, and I also used my heal charge a couple of times too. Because, of course, this Super Spitfire of a ship does come with a heal charge. Go figure. Overall net income for the match, 349,000 credits for basically. And again, not running any incredibly major modifiers, just the basic camouflage and the basic Zulu and my military contributor month flag. No real expenses either, because I was I for all 3 of these matches, I actually forgot to supply premium consumables. So these are the baseline consumables on this ship too, for that matter. So this ship's pulling all of this off with baseline consumables, folks. Imagine what would actually happen if I were to pull this off with premium consumables and actually remember to do that. And of course, last but not least, for this match, the commander walks away with 5,655 experience points for... I've got to say it. I have to say it outright. This absolutely ludicrous match, because there's no other way to describe it. No other way to exaggerate just how powerful this ship was in this match by whatever stretch of the imagination. Finally, we get into match number 3. And this one, at least I did have teammates, so to that end, I can at least say that not going to be quite as dramatic a result as the previous match. Because, of course, having other players on the match, or on the map as a whole, just tends to take away from the overall potential of a individual player, because, well, more skilled players just tend to balance things out a little bit more. They're not bots. They're more skilled, they're more calculating, and they generally tend to stick around in the match a lot longer. Or at least that would be the general hope, even in co-op matches. So there is that to be said. Of course, the first target I choose is the enemy Colbert, which... understandable, considering I already know that these are the matches as I had them in sequence, so I know very much what a Colbert is capable of at this point in time, and I have every reason to just want that thing dead as quickly as possible. Why? Because I'm in it, I know what it's capable of, and there's just nothing there's no reason in the world I would want that sticking around on the map at all, period, end of story. I'm even gonna go out there and say I would prioritize sinking a Colbert over sinking a Smolensk. As pesky as a Smolensk can be, it's not a Colbert. I'm sorry to say it, Smolensk, honestly, again, just on the overall spectrum, really just does not compare to the Smolensk or the Colbert, whichever way around I actually had that at all, period. Unfortunately, I do eat some long-range fire from the enemy Montana, but I've got to say it. Chipping away the damage on this ship, I mean, yeah, okay, I'm cut down, I'm maybe 2/3 health overall, but with a captain that has Adrenaline Rush on this ship, that's actually not helping anything. It makes this ship that much more dangerous in the long run. And just overall, as this match progresses, as I take more damage overall, you can actually see just how ludicrous, how impressive the rate of fire on this ship ends up being. Even though I can't really do incredible amounts to bow and stern armor on a heavier target like a battleship or a heavy cruiser, just the sheer rate of fire is withering. And granted, this also isn't like the Harugumo or the Japanese gunboat destroyers, where they do have that very good pen chance because, well, Wargaming decided to give that to them. No, this is a ship that just has blistering rates of fire. It really can't pen armor worth a damn for the most part, but it doesn't have to, because here what it's actually monopolizing on, especially shooting at a battleship or a heavier cruiser, isn't so much the fear of the actual shells themselves doing damage. It is fear of the fires that this thing is setting and forcing out damage control. And that is something that this ship excels at. And I mean completely excels at. There is nothing else to say in regards to that. This ship will set fires like crazy and basically leave anything that it focuses down with nothing to do but sit there and burn. Especially if you focus this ship towards demolition expert, things like that, to just improve the fire chances, get more fires out there faster, and as long as they hit and they stick, that's what this ship is good for. This is like the Smolensk. I'm going to come out and say it. This is like the Smolensk's fire chance on steroids, and of course, when you're looking at light-ish armored targets, or something that gives you a nice broadside, just the sheer rate of fire getting AP into the sides of enemy ships, oh my dear lord. I mean, like you already saw, the Henry, that it had 20,000 health, and I literally just melted it in maybe 2 salvos. And of course, I've got to go back to the Audacious from the previous match. How that thing, as soon as I just started opening fire with AP on it just... there was nothing in the world that could compare to the amount of damage I did to that ship in a very short period of time. This is not a ship you want to get into a close quarters AP brawl with, because it will seriously fuck you over, to not put too fine a point on it at all. Yeah. I've seen people refer to the Atlanta or even the Smolensk as just long-range flamethrowers. Well, they can step aside because there's a new sheriff in town. The Colbert is... I can say it any number of times, and it will still be true, and I'll just sound like a broken record every single time I repeat it. And... oh my god, just looking at the sheer volume of fire, that this is enough to intimidate. If I were a player facing off against this thing, that is an intimidating amount of fire. The only thing that I have to compare this to in regards to this type of appearance of shell arc, shell incoming, tracing, whatever, is the Harugumo itself. And even then, there's still just something to be said for just the sheer potential of this ship. It's... oh my god. And of course, for this match, we're looking at another enemy Audacious, which means my shells are basically worthless aside from setting fires at this kind of range, unless they're actually hitting the conning tower superstructure, right smack dab in the middle of the ship. The only other thing that might be worthwhile at all is if I get shells into sections where I just set fires, but again, it's an aircraft carrier. It's got a very quick cooldown damage control and very short duration fires. So it's not like there's anything that I can really rely on at this kind of range to do reliable damage to the Audacious. Which is also why I opted to pop my speed boost when it came off cooldown and just charge in as much as I could. Try to close the gap so that I can get to a nice broadside, switch over to AP, and just absolutely wreck the CV. And, well, it's got basically nothing that it can do against me. Even without the speed boost, I'm faster than the Audacious. I can charge it down, no problem. It would just take longer. And all that while, I would literally just be raining HE down on it. As soon as I get close enough, though, AP, and just look at how quickly that health ticks away. Yeah, that's not even 10 seconds of time. That was maybe 3 salvos, and 2 of them were still in the air when the CV actually got finished off. So, yeah, just... goodbye. I'm done. Anyway, 117,500 damage done for match number 3, with 621 main battery hits, 18 aircraft shot down, 2 kills, 11 fires. 211,000 credits earned for the match, 2,667 EXP, and 570 free EXP. Again, I think I've still, with this second match, topped what I've seen in some of my best Harugumo matches as far as overall main battery hits. So, yeah. Came off second on the team with 621 base EXP. Our gearing definitely earned that. I'm sure he was right there with me, and he did the vast majority to the... especially to the enemy Montana, and he was certainly trying to do a good bit of work overall. Damage tallies. 48,000 damage done to the enemy Audacious. 21,300 to the enemy Henri. Montana, 28,000 damage. Colbert, 20,200 damage. Overall, 91,000 damage done by the main battery. 26,000 damage done by fire, and 36,000 damage almost done to enemy aircraft. Didn't really show myself too much to ships that could shoot at me, so only absorbed 190,000 potential damage, and only got 10,000 spotting damage, because I did have the destroyer that was pretty much right there with me. He probably absorbed more spotting damage than I did. Also, ship only took 18,000 points worth of damage, and most of that was from the one hit I took from the enemy Montana. Overall, credits, expenses, etc. and so forth. Came away from this match with a gain of 175,000 credits, and Commander walks away with 3,335 experience points. All of this, and they call the Smolensk overpowered. Alrighty, folks. So anyway, that is the Tier 10 Premium French Cruiser, the Colbert. After a couple of those matches, I honestly have to come out and say I think Smolensk has nothing, and I do mean honestly absolutely nothing on this ship. Between its absolutely blistering rate of fire, the sheer overall fire chance, everything that this ship just has going for her, her maneuverability, her slightly tankier armor scheme for trolling shells into her belt, that this ship has things going for it that the Smolensk just honestly doesn't. If anything, the only thing the Smolensk has against her is, I believe, slightly larger guns and more penetration, and that's really about it. Yeah. Smolensk honestly doesn't even hold a candle to the Colbert, as far as what I've seen and done so far. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, I suppose I shall go ahead and let everybody go. I hope you all enjoyed the video, found it informative in regards to what this ship is capable of, and I hope to catch you all again next time. For those of you who are new to the channel, please do not forget to like and subscribe if you have enjoyed what you've seen, and make sure that you are set up to gain notifications for future content. On that note, I hope to catch you all later. Have a good one. Happy hunting, folks.